Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. Who cares?
Who cares? I don't.
Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday morning. We're broadcasting to you live just outside of Ottawa. We've got a pretty interesting show for you today. I got to tell you right off the bat, though, please share this. Please share this broadcast with your friends and family. Subscribe. We need subscribers. Resubscribe if you've been unsubscribed. And I'll be back in mere moments with more excitement.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
I see some of you are waking up to the broadcast here. So, yeah, 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Eastern time, our usual time. We're trying to stick to the time. Trying not to be late or early because people complain when I'm, 5 minutes late, or when I have to postpone the show because there's news happening. So, yeah, we do our best. We do our best here. And so I want to talk about the Jeffrey E. files again, because nobody else is talking about them. Look at the podcasters, the broadcasters, whatever you want to call them. Independent, so-called independent media, independent news media, people calling themselves journalists, but they're really not. They're just, I don't know what the hell they are. Podcasters, whatever, seems to be a livelihood unto its own now. But nobody wants to talk about the Jeffrey E. files. And it's ridiculous how I have to say that. But I've been warned. Say the E. And especially this early, you're going to be in trouble. See? Look at that. We faded out for a second. It's amazing. So I want to look at before I get into some vid clips here. And, I was supposed to have Neil Oliver on the show today, which is why I'm a little bit harried, because Neil had to back out because of a personal reason. But I hope to get him on the show this week. He's a good friend, and it's always a great conversation. So it's coming up. Neil, I hope whatever is going on today works out well for you. I wish you always the best. God bless you. God keep you. We pray for you because you're doing a fantastic job of highlighting truth. You're a truth teller. You always have been. And we love you for that. So I want to have a look at my X pages here. This is fun. This is fun. When you wake up in the morning and you realize, oh my God, look what's going on here. And so I just, I'm going to look at this one first here. This is amazing. So we made fun of the appointment of Janice Charette as the chief trade negotiator for the Mark Carney government in the USMCA or CUSMA, whatever we're going to call them now. And I think she's going to scare the hell out of people, actually. Now, I'm not sure this is a wise choice. No, I know this wasn't a wise choice. But leave it to Red Tory, the Honorable Lisa McCormack-Wright, Privy Council. Fantastic appointment. Also notable is she was High Commissioner to the UK. What the hell does that matter? That's not a good thing when she's negotiating with the United States. Lisa. Yeah, Lisa Wright, true to form. This is obviously about Mark Carney setting Canada up to fail. This is why he appoints people like this. This is a bureaucrat who was one of the people behind the invocation of the Emergencies Act 4 bloody years ago, almost to the day now. February 14th, 2022. And say, holy shit, doesn't seem to encapsulate the moment. So what is going on with Palantir? And you say, Palantir, everything about Palantir, symbolism, it comes from Lord of the Rings, the all-seeing eye. We can see everything. We know what you're doing. We know what you're up to. And if you think these people are on our side, and if you think, oh, they're really instrumental to our society now because they're watching the criminals. No, they're watching you. The great line from the Maltese Falcon. Yes, I'm a classic film aficionado. I won't call myself an expert, although maybe I am. There's a great line in that film where Humphrey Bogart, as Sam Spade, is being interrogated by the police. And private eyes are always being hauled in to the local police station and questioned by the police because they're so close to crime as they're investigating crimes, and they're all half suspected of being perhaps the perpetrator of the crime. And Humphrey Bogart is asked some questions, and he says, I don't have to answer that. And the cop says, why? You got something to hide, Spade? Sam Spade replies, everybody's got something to hide. Yeah, we all have something to hide. The government doesn't need to know everything about us, but Palantir will make sure they do. Massive hack, apparently, at Palantir. So what does that mean? What does that mean? My God, it means information that was already not confidential, that was not being protected by Palantir, now could be seen by anybody and everybody if this report is true. And I think it is. I've done some research this morning, and everything I've read confirms that this actually did happen. Peter Thiel and Alex Karp. And Thiel, by the way, is a real work. Just incredible. If you've seen this guy, it looks like he's had something implanted in his face to begin with. But he's always talking about the Antichrist. Like he's a Christian or something. I'm sorry, your personal life doesn't attest to any Christianity. Peter Thiel and Alex Karp commit mass surveillance of world leaders and titans of industry on a massive scale. They have thousands of hours of transcribed and searchable conversations of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Elon Musk. Palantir is creating nuclear and bioweapons capabilities for Ukraine and is working closely with the CIA to defeat Russia. So, a lot of information. Palantir was allegedly hacked. And AI, by the way, if you think AI is a great thing, it's going to mean we're never going to have to work again. Never have to get off my ass again because AI is going to do all the work for us. Well, that's called utopian socialism, and it doesn't work. Because I'm sorry, you can't have a society where everybody's sitting on their ass watching technology do all the work. Because why? People will inevitably turn to crime, or they just won't give a damn what they do in their personal life. Yeah. So who's Peter Thiel? A very weird individual. Yeah. We are in this could be a monumental story. This comment from Michael Cook. If this is true, then we have a real-life Bond villain. Honestly, the more I learn about the hidden power in the West, Epstein, Thiel, the more I want Russia and China to win. Maybe they have their psychopaths too, but at least they don't seem to eat children or want a nuclear winter. Am I wrong here? I'm not going to go that far, but I'm scared. I don't know if there's any difference anymore between the East and the West. I grew up in the Cold War. I served in the military as the Cold War was ending. But my father served in the Royal Canadian Air Force, Canadian Armed Forces during the Cold War. I grew up in a Cold War base, Comox, British Columbia, with nuclear weapons at that base. We knew we were right. We knew the Soviets were wrong. We hated communism. We fought communism. I don't know who's on whose side anymore. Palantir, by the way, is plummeting in the stock markets. Why would that be? Well, maybe it's got something to do with the fact that people think this is a very bad organization that is spying on us. Yes, spying. It scares the hell out of me. What's going on here? "13 workers left Palantir and issued this statement. Palantir is increasingly complicit, normalizing authoritarianism under the guise of a, quote, revolution, unquote, led by oligarchs. We must resist this trend." Now, there's Peter Thiel. Now, he's, what the hell happened to his face? You have to remember, this guy's a billionaire. So why no cosmetic surgery? I mean, did somebody hit you with a crowbar? That's what it looks like. It looks like he's, permanently scarred on the right side of his face. And why doesn't he get fixed up? Is it a badge of honor? I wonder. Let's listen to this.
This is my very specific question for you, right? Is that you're an investor in AI. You're deeply invested in Palantir, in military technology, in technologies of surveillance, in technologies of warfare, and so on, right? And it just seems to me that when you tell me a story about the Antichrist coming to power and using the fear of technological change to sort of impose order on the world, I feel like that Antichrist would maybe be using the tools that you were building, right? Like, wouldn't the Antichrist be like, great, we're not going to have any more technological progress, but I really like what Palantir has done so far, right?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't that a concern? Wouldn't that be the irony of history would be that the man publicly worrying about the Antichrist accidentally hastens his or her arrival?
There are all these different scenarios. I obviously don't think that that's what I'm doing. I
mean, to be clear, I don't think that's what you're doing either. I'm just interested in how you get to a world willing to submit to permanent authoritarian rule.
Well, but again, there are these different gradations of this we can describe, but is this so preposterous, what I've just told you, as a broad account of the stagnation that the entire world has submitted for 50 years to peace and safetyism? This is 1 Thessalonians 5:3. The slogan of the Antichrist is peace and safety, and we've submitted.
Wow. Why didn't he just say, hell no, I'm not the Antichrist. I'm a Christian. I'm fighting the Antichrist. But no, he couldn't say that. He couldn't say that. In fact, it was an awkward silence as he hummed and hawed. And so there's a lot of interest today on X and whether or not this was actually, what we think it is, which was a tremendous hack. So I want to look at some more comments from the folks about Janice Charette. Jeffrey Rath, my good friend, says, brilliant. So Canada will get to learn what life looks like with zero access to the U.S. market. You got that right, Jeff. Tamara Leach, heroine, or however you want to say, of the Freedom Convoy. Tamara writes, congratulations to Mrs. Charette on this prestigious appointment. Meanwhile, back here in Medicine Hat, I've just successfully passed my second home visit / police check by our local police department this morning and completed my mandatory community service this past week. Look at us go, Janice. And of course, she advised Trudeau to invoke the Emergencies Act. Boy, that is one scary individual. I'll put it that way. My good friend Ezra Levant posts this morning. Charette wrote the toxic memo recommending Trudeau invoke martial law against the peaceful trucker protesters. She seized the bank accounts. 4 judges in a row have since ruled that memo was illegal and unconstitutional. So naturally, she got a promotion. Right on, Ezra. And that's the way it works here. Ryan Garrettson comments, I'm actually shocked that CBC mentioned that Janice Charette was a big part of recommending the Emergencies Act being invoked and that it was a controversial decision. The part I dislike is CBC saying it got them in hot water instead of saying they were found guilty of violating the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I comment, don't be shocked. The CBC and the government it served are proud of the Emergencies Act and of crushing dissent. Yeah. I'm going to show that video to you in a minute here. This is all incredibly shocking. More and more comments about this alleged hack. J.D. Vance is absolutely disqualified for 2028. If this is, you know. I got now. I love this comment from Eva Chipiuk talking about COVID-19 being planned. Was this all planned? It's beyond belief, beyond imagination, beyond morality. Ah, that's it. There's some more comments about Janice Charette. This appointment of Janice Charette as Canada's chief trade negotiator for the Comes review is a stark reminder of the unaccountable elite network that have repeatedly undermined Canadian sovereignty and the rule of law. I can't believe how people like Stockwell Day are just in the pocket of the corrupt regime in Ukraine. So let's just keep sending them billions. Hey, Stock? I used to know you, Stock. I don't know you anymore. You're all in this together. And Ezra Levant, Charette wrote that toxic memo. Yes, because they're setting us up for failure. I love this. Melanie in Saskatchewan, who will be on the show, by the way. We're just negotiating. No, I mean, we're just trying to find a time that works for. Warren Kinsella, of course, long-standing liberal hack, says, I don't give a damn if you're a liberal or a conservative. You don't go to the U.S. as Giovanni did, talking about Jamal Giovanni going to the U.S. and trying to make friends with our closest ally and shit on your country. He didn't do that. You particularly don't do so when your country is under attack by the U.S. Really, I missed that, Warren. There's no attack here. And this is the capital too. You think they'd start maybe at the capital, because we're not that far from the New York border here. You think they'd start at the capital? No. I can't see Poilievre being happy about any of this. He's clever enough. Well, that's nice of you to say. To know that Giovanni will feature prominently in liberal attack ads that may be coming sooner rather than later. And I love Melanie saying, under attack by who exactly, Warren? The 82nd Airborne? Or are we talking about tariffs and trade leverage, the kind of grown-up negotiations sovereign countries engage in every decade? Yeah. I love what Tamara Leach posted here. You begin to suspect that what we call democracy might be more like a stage, a circus of competing politicians who look like leaders but function in reality as employees of a system they do not control. I'm not sure where she's quoting that from, and then you arrive at the most dangerous question of all, the question nobody wants citizens to ask too loudly. If the real power lies above the democratic stage, in darkness, in networks that can feed money, push the ideas, and mobilize bureaucracy to implement them, then do we really live in democracies? Or do we live inside managed democracies, really, where freedom is mostly a feeling and choice is mostly performance? I commented on that for Ephesians chapter 6. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. And it goes on. That's where we are. This is what is so interesting about the Jeffrey E. files. That's ripped the veneer off of this establishment that is demonic and satanic. Yes, they do worship the devil. and their activities are just so horrific. A lot of people just don't want to report it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit it. So that's where we are. Anyway, I am going to go back to, we spent a lot of time here this morning. Well, we got 300 people watching. I know it's going to be another bomb today. Sorry about that. Want to show this to you, because I think it's very interesting.
Is there anything you'd like to say before we end the call?
We're doing it. We're doing it. And I'm sure you're enjoying this as much as I am. Let's not talk to analysts about the burden of being right, our burdens of investing in ontology, our burdens of actually looking at the math, the burden of reading what the Rule of 40 is, the burden of being honest about what an enterprise software company is, or the burden of explaining to your friends that you're really happy. Maybe we should just stop talking about it. I'm very happy to have you along for the journey, and you are partners for us. Every Palantirian, we are crushing it. Everyone else who's listening, we are dedicating our company. We have dedicated our company to the service of the West and the United States of America, and we're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. And we love our success in the U.S. and globally. Also, we are doing in the United Kingdom and many other places. Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies and on occasion kill them. And we hope you're in favor of that. We hope you're enjoying being a partner, and we're really happy and very, very focused on what we're doing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That concludes Q&A for today's call.
Okay, is this guy psychotic or what? He can't sit still. I've seen many interviews. This is the CEO of Palantir, and he literally cannot sit in his seat. He's fidgeting. It looks like he's got either a physical infirmity or perhaps one mental, but he just can't seem to sit down, and he can't. I think this is what happens to these elites when they take control the way they have. Now, I want to show you a video that I thought I was showing you yesterday. I must have looked like a complete idiot because apparently the screen wasn't sharing. We had some technical difficulties. I wonder why we're having technical difficulties when we're talking about these issues. When we're talking about the Jeffrey E. files, we always seem to have, some technical difficulties, folks. Sorry about that. So yesterday, I thought I was sharing this video with you, and I wasn't. So let's watch it now. Now we're going to shift the program from Palantir and Janice Charette, who will be a disaster as a chief trade negotiator for Canada, to the continuing observation assessment of the Jeffrey E. files, because nobody else wants to talk about this. And we've got people like Jason Kenney, former Premier of Alberta, former defense minister under Stephen Harper, former member of parliament with the Conservative Party of Canada, with the Canadian Alliance, with the Reform Party, now saying, hey, man, Mark Carney might be in the Epstein, the Jeffrey E. files, but don't worry about it. 69 times, it's innocuous. Don't pay any attention to it. And don't worry about Sultan bin Sulayem, who obviously Carney knew and negotiated with. And this is the guy who resigned as the head of DP World, the biggest shipping company in the world, because he had some very embarrassing emails. Yeah, I talked about the torture video, talked about a bionic dick, talked about this. And do you really want to do business with this guy? So let's watch this.
Pieces of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, providing more information on the convicted sex offender's crimes. Among the files, claims bodies are buried near Epstein's Zorro Ranch in Santa Fe County. Tonight, the state land commissioner demanding an investigation.
I'm going to keep asking questions and keep poking around until I get an answer.
Those coming from an anonymous email in 2019 addressed to a local radio host.
Leah Chavez spoke with him and has the details of that email.
Yeah, Doug, Shelley, we're also hearing tonight from the Attorney General's office, who says it takes these allegations seriously, but needs more information to do something about it.
Eddie Aragon says it was early in the morning in November 2019 when he got this email from someone claiming they were a former staffer at Zorro Ranch. Writing, "Did you know somewhere in the hills outside of the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G. Both died by strangulation during rough fetish sex."
I got the email. I was startled.
The emailer says they had 7 sex videos, including some with minors, but never actually sent the footage, asking Aragon for digital currency Bitcoin.
Approximately at that time, Bitcoin was worth about $8,000. They wanted in exchange 1 Bitcoin for the videos that they had in possession.
Aragon says he didn't know what to do with the email, so he sent it to the FBI.
I've since referred to the FBI on a number of other things.
Now, I mentioned that we'll get back to this in a minute, but does it seem strange to any of you out there that the FBI has not searched this property, has not done any kind of examination of the land? We know it's you can map this stuff out now with radar technology. It's as easy as running a lawnmower. You go over the area and it'll map out what's beneath the ground. But they won't do that. They'll do that when these false claims come out about Indigenous peoples being buried in these so-called graveyards across Canada. And those findings have produced zero. Here, let's get back to this. I find this incredible.
Heard back from them on anything.
Fast forward 6 years later, the DOJ released Aragon's email as part of the Epstein files.
Matters. I think that New Mexicans need answers. I think the victims need answers.
That's what prompted New Mexico Public Lands Commissioner Stephanie Garcia Richard to send this letter to the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney's Office Tuesday, asking them to thoroughly investigate this disturbing allegation regarding the referenced burials.
We need to get to the bottom of really what happened in New Mexico.
She says she was horrified to learn in 2019 that our state was still leasing lands around Zorro Ranch to Epstein's company.
I canceled the leases at that time.
A month after Epstein killed himself in jail, the land around the mansion totals around 1,200 acres and hasn't been leased out since.
We're thinking to possibly turn it into a memorial to honor the victims, or as some kind of wildlife sanctuary, perhaps. So that's what we're thinking for that land.
Attorney General Raul Torres' office responding to Garcia Richard hours later with this letter. As we understand it, the allegations appear to be unsubstantiated, it says, going on to say they will work to obtain the original files. Once such information is obtained, our office will review it to determine whether any further action is warranted, and if so, the appropriate next steps.
To my knowledge, no investigation has taken place thus far. It doesn't sound like anything is going to be taking place very soon.
The commissioner says she's ready to offer all state land for investigation, but can't do anything about the ranch since it's privately owned, bought by new owners and renamed. Aaliyah Chavez, KUAT Action 7 News.
We asked the U.S. Attorney for a comment. They referred us to the FBI, which declined comment.
Holy crap. Now, what do you make of that? Why is the FBI not doing anything? It's like they don't want to know. And this concerns me about Canada right now as well, because nobody is reporting on what's going on with these files in Canada. It's like it doesn't exist. It's like, don't ask, don't tell. Remember that used to be a policy in the United States military about homosexuality. It was called don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask if somebody is homosexual and they don't have to tell you. Well, in a weird way, that's exactly how things are going right now with all of this. And here, this is going to be a difficult one to show, but we're going to watch this.
Massey has been forced to say, I'm not
self-deleting. I have to be very careful with this. You can read what's going on, but every time she says the S word, I have to sort of make sure
suicidal. After forcing the release of the Epstein files, the guy is a national hero at this point, doing the good thing that many in our government would not do. And he puts out this tweet. He says, I am not suicidal. Healthy food. The brakes on my car and truck are in good shape. I practice good trigger discipline and never point a gun at anyone, including myself. There are no deep pools of water on my farm, and I'm a pretty good swimmer. I mean, the fact he has to even say this is where we're at in society right now. I mean, they are not going to be able to oust Thomas Massey The establishment, which happens to be Trump, part of the deep state, the swamp, is doing everything that they possibly can to oust Thomas Massie, to get rid of him. He is unbelievably popular, not going anywhere, doing the work that we expect people to be doing, which they're not. He's the only one. And he has to then come out and say, yeah, so I'm not suicidal, to everybody. I mean, just unbelievable. Ro Khanna says something similar, although he says, I'm not worried for my physical safety, honestly. The truth is more nuanced. Big money tries to destroy a person's career and reputation. They did to Marjorie Taylor Greene. In Washington, you rise by keeping your head down and not making enemies. Massie and I are unafraid to challenge power.
I got a comment here. I'd like to know how many of you think Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna should actually team up in a political way. Now, I know a lot of you say, I don't trust Democrats. Well, I don't either. But if Ro Khanna leaves the Democratic Party and joins with Thomas Massie for a third party, I don't know what good it's going to do. Maybe it will. Because clearly in the United States, there's an increasing tendency to form a uniparty in terms of surveillance anyway. I know Donald Trump's done some wonderful things, and I love him to a point. But he's really disappointing me in some areas. And why are they not interested in these Epstein files? Something going on.
These guys, they should be running the entire country. They should be the ones in charge. This is how we really truly drain the swamp. It is with Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. When are these guys going to join together and run for president? They should run on a joint ticket.
Now, I've been saying this, potentially, I'm not advocating that they run on a joint ticket. I'm saying it's a possibility. Potentially. What would happen? I invite your comment. When I said that, we dropped viewership. What would happen? Would it be a benefit or not to the American people? Anyway, Kim Iverson, by the way, was a mainstream media journalist. I have some respect for her. I think she's fairly objective. Don't always agree with her, but you don't have to always agree with anybody to consider their analysis to be viable and worthy of note.
I think that this would unite people. They would get a lot of votes. They could run on an independent ticket, the Thomas Massie, Ro Khanna ticket. I'm all for it. I'm totally all for it. I think it's the only way forward with this country because everybody else, no matter how many times we vote to try to hope that we're draining the swamp or making change, we end up with the same bullshit over and over and over again. The DOJ, by the way, says that they're done releasing Epstein files, that they've done it. Everything is released, that there's nothing more to see here. They say that that's it. But let's read this letter here. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of the Deputy Attorney General. This was dated on a couple days ago, Valentine's Day. This is our Valentine to America, regarding the Epstein files, saying that they have to within 15 days of completing the release required under the act to submit to the House and Senate committees on the judiciary a report listing. And so they say, okay, we're going to give you a bunch of names. And they listed all of these random names, including names like Janice Joplin, who died in 1970. But look at this list of names. I mean, this is just totally and completely nutty. I mean, they do list some of the big politicians. They say that there's, like, for example, the list includes politicians, foreign leaders, tech moguls, celebrities. But some of these names they're just kind of throwing, the way they did this was they just threw.
I mean, this is incredible to me. This is the sort of half-baked approach, unless it's intentional. And I think Kim Iverson is right. This is intentional. Put every name in the book, and they've got Janice Joplin. Who would even think of Janice Joplin in 2026? She died in 1970 of a drug overdose. Very influential in the music of the period. But what would she have to do with the Epstein files? I'm not even sure Jeffrey Epstein was, 5 years old at that time? So maybe 10? And the Maryland path. You know, you got to be very careful.
They just threw up on all of us and said, here's a bunch of names. And then some of the names are so ridiculous, like Janice Joplin, that it's like, oh, we're just throwing every name out there. That way, anybody on the list now could say, they had Janice Joplin on the list. Nothing to see here with me. I did no wrong. Nothing to see here. Everybody's on the list. So they just threw up names in order to basically discredit the list entirely. They've got Donald Trump, Melania Trump, Ivanka Trump, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, Ashley Biden, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, J.D. Vance, George Bush Jr., Jeb Bush, Merrick Garland, William Barr, Mike Pence, Mike Pompeo, Marco Rubio, Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Kash Patel, Todd Blanche, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Amy Schumer, Adam Schiff, Jamie Raskin, AOC, Pramila Jayapal, Jeff Sessions, Mitt Romney. They literally just put everybody on the list. And they're like, okay, here you go. Here's a list of names. You said you wanted them. Here you go. There you go. Princess Diana, Queen Elizabeth II is on here. Everybody in Lisa Marie Presley, Marilyn Monroe, Kurt Cobain, Bill Cosby. Some of these are believable, right? But some of them are like, really? Janice Joplin? Okay. This is so totally nutty. Meanwhile, and this is the joke, right? So they're putting this list out there. They're like, here you go. We're just going to throw up a bunch of names. That way everything is delegitimized.
All right. If you're still watching this video, and I hope you are, this is the crux of it here, is that these files are having consequences, ramifications upon political leaders around the world, except in Canada and the United States. Let's listen to some more.
Okay. But look at this. Remember the guy, the Sultan Ahmad bin Sulayem? He was the one who sent Jeffrey Epstein a tour.
That's our boy. That's the guy. So how many broadcasters in Canada are talking about the fact that this is the guy that we had a trade agreement with? We were going to give away our pension funds to. No, nobody wants to talk about that in Canada either. You think there's collusion going on here? I think so. And it pisses me off. Really does.
Torture video, apparently. And Jeffrey Epstein said, I love the torture video. And then Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna were able to uncover that torture video was sent by the Sultan Ahmad bin Sulayem. Well, he has now been forced to resign. So there's at least some people that are actually being forced into some consequences. Thomas Massey took credit for this, saying that the DOJ redacted information necessary to identify who sent the Epstein torture video email. Ro Khanna and I discovered his name and released it Monday. Today he resigns.
I have approached numerous people about talking about this, and I have been turned down flatly because, hey, we don't want to talk about it. Why exactly? I don't want to discuss it, David. But we're not going to talk about it. Just so many other things to cover right now. There's so many other projects, so many other news stories. That we don't want to talk about the fact that this guy was leading the UAE trade mission with Canada. He was the one we were negotiating with. Does Mark Carney know him?
And it says DP World, this is from the Wall Street Journal, DP World Chairman and Chief Executive Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem resigned from the Dubai-based global ports operator after documents released by the Justice Department showed he had ties to Jeffrey Epstein. So good, at least we're seeing some accountability, right? Also, the French are investigating. They raided Paris's Arab World Institute in an Epstein-linked probe. So they saw something there that they felt like they needed to go and investigate. Also, the BBC reports Norway's former prime minister charged with gross corruption over Epstein links. So that's the former Norwegian prime minister has been charged with gross corruption over his ties with Epstein. The charge was brought after the Council of Europe lifted Jagland's immunity, which he enjoyed because of his past diplomatic role. He denies criminal liability and is willing to cooperate, the lawyer says. Emails released by the U.S. government are thought to show that Jagland planned solo and family visits to Epstein's homes in Paris, New York, and Palm Beach after the billionaire was convicted of a child sex offense. So they're questioning him now. Also in the UK, Peter Mandelson, he was like the number 2 guy, I think, in the Labour Party. And he has resigned from the Lords, which is their like upper chamber of the House, kind of like their Senate, after Epstein emails leaked. So he has resigned. And okay, so, you know, we're starting to see people facing some consequences everywhere in the world, but here. And here was Donald Trump's administration saying they were going to drain the swamp, right?
Everywhere but the U.S. and Canada. I'll say that again. Now we're gonna conclude the show talking about Janice Charette some more and a few other things. But don't go away. We've got lots more to talk about for the end.
Who cares?
And if you know me at all, you know I love jazz music. I played saxophone and I sing. And 2026, I'm getting back into music. Not full-time, obviously. It was full-time for me at one point in my life. Very blessed, wonderful interval. An interlude, actually, before I came to Ottawa and made the fateful decision to work at the House of Commons, which might have been the worst decision I ever made in my life. Yes, I'm serious. I should have stayed in Las Vegas and done the music. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you this morning, but whenever I hear jazz, yeah, that was a fateful decision. Anyway, we want to keep going this morning. At the moment, there ain't no place else to go. Is to keep going. And I want to show you, this is Mark Carney at his, best or worst?
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail.
The U.S. called off trade talks with Canada. Has Mr. Trump returned your calls, texts, or accepted your apology over the Ontario ad?
He accepted the apology when I spoke to him, and we've had discussions. I've been busy. There's another point, though. I've been busy. We passed a budget with that's going to catalyze $1 trillion of investment. We have launched new trade agreements. We've secured new investment in the country of a size not seen arguably before. So we're busy. He's got other things to do, and we'll re-engage when it's appropriate. Who cares? Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters. I mean, the sort of, comme j'ai dit, nous sommes très occupés. Nous sommes très, très occupés avec l'avenir du Canada. Nous sommes maîtres chez nous et avec les nouveaux partenariats. Et il y aura des conversations. Il y aura des conversations, oui, avec le président et moi, probablement dans les prochaines 2 semaines. Mais on attend de, I'm always happy to. Sorry, I slipped into French because I anticipated the en français thing. I look forward to speaking to the president soon, but I don't have a burning issue to speak with the president about right now. When America wants to come back and have the discussions on the trade side, we will have those discussions. I'm going to answer a potential question here, and then I'll pass back, which is, for example, with respect to Ukraine and the 28-point plan. We are a core member of the Coalition of the Willing. You would have seen a demonstration of that yesterday with the meeting of European leaders, a core group of Europe.
Wow. Wow. All I can say is wow. so uninvolved. We're just so busy passing a budget and all these trade deals, of course, the most monumental in history. You know, there are times he actually talks like Donald Trump. You know how Donald Trump, the biggest, the best, the most important in history. This is Mark Carney talking like that. Arguably the most important budget and most investments ever. Arguably, he's got the most corrupt government in the history of this country. I think that is where we should be going every day in the media. And that's where Pierre Poilievre needs to be going. And my God, if there's an election call, which I predict there will be within the next 2 weeks. Yes, you heard it here. Within the next 2 weeks, there's going to be an election call. Pierre Poilievre had better start moving on from the very same talking points and think he's going to win the election by getting tough with Donald Trump. He needs to get tough with Mark Carney as the most corrupt prime minister leading the most corrupt government in the history of Canada. Now, I want to conclude the show here with a few more snippets from Ye Olde X-File. That's it. The Food Professor, thank you so much for keeping us abreast of this information. Look at this. Prediction for this week, Canada will still have highest food inflation rate amongst G7 countries. Here we are at 6.5, and I think that's low. I think that's artificially low. 4.5 in the UK, 5.1 in Japan, 2.9% in the USA, 2.6. Germany's 1.4. You say, how the hell can Canada have the highest food? Look at the arable land we have in this country. Look at the space we have for cattle, for chickens, for pigs. And why are we at the highest inflation? Yeah, and I have to say, this was a this was a very, 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 very profound observation from Tamara. There is the empire above Epstein. It's the principalities in power, the rulers of darkness. Yeah. So that's where we are. And my good friend Clayton Morris, of course, touched on this too. Let's have a listen.
So what I can say right now that we have identified the person, the suspect, by a birth name. The birth name was Robert Dorgan. We have also learned that the person does go by the name of Roberta, also uses a last name of Esposito. But again, that will be all confirmed throughout the course of the investigation as to their status that really doesn't have anything to do with the investigation. 1969 he was born.
Holy crap. Holy crap. This is incredible because Clayton was not talking about the shooting in Canada. He was talking about another one in Rhode Island. Another man's shooting. What the hell is going on here? This is absolutely incredible. We're watching this happen and it's just like we're saying, hey, I don't know. I don't know why this is happening. My world is changing. Yes, the world is changing before our very eyes. Tomorrow, it's Conspiracy Wednesday, and we will be highlighting your super chats and your Rumble rants. So please, and hype the station. I understand some people couldn't find it. You can, once again, I understand that was missing. The button, the thank you button was missing for God knows how long. We just discovered it the other week. You can thank us in your wonderful fashion. We thank you for doing that. Thank you for watching today. Every day is an adventure. Keep the folks at Universal Ostrich Farms in your prayers today, by the way. I'll just say that. And I'll be back again tomorrow with some of the news you need to know. Not all of it. Can't do it all. Thank you for watching. And my name is David Crayden. You've been watching Stand on Guard. God bless you all. And Godspeed to everything you do and to all that you are and can be. Bye. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button. because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I am going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Crayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.